G'day fellas and welcome to a casted game of Age of Mythology Retold. I'm just kidding, yeah, it's not a casted game. It's a casted first person perspective. I mean, technically it's still a casted game. Like, I'm casting, I got my legs up. I'm here with you guys in real time. Like, we take a look right here. This is the recording. I'm watching this on VLC. So this game happened back in the stress test, but I'm here post stress test giving you guys the lowdown on what went down in the game. It's a pretty good game. I think you guys are going to like it, so I hope you stick around because it definitely doesn't start off as a good game, but as it gets closer towards the end, it becomes a bit more of a good game. Let's dive into it. So we'll talk a little bit about the matchup. We've got the Atlanteans up against the Greeks. Hades up against Gaia. As you guys know, I'm a Gaia main. I'm a Gaia main squeeze. Probably going to be playing like Thor on my off days, but this is my favorite opening for Gaia. I've featured this a couple times before. This is the 3-2-2 opening. It's a great opening for one base play. So if you want to open with going into a single town center, this makes the most sense. And I think that there's a lot of really good synergy with playing one base and playing Gaia. So when you look at the advantages that Gaia has got early economic upgrades. So you can take advantage of that by focusing on one base, but then just getting your extra economic upgrades. And that's exactly what we do in this build order. We look to try and take advantage of that. Look to try and pick up our early, what have we got? We've got Hacksaw, is that what it's called? Hacksaw, and then we've got, Hand Axe, and then Long Axe, something like that. You've got your mining upgrades, and then you've got your wood upgrades, so we get both of those. And of course, once we age up as well, we're going to be looking to get our tier 2 upgrade as well. So today we're up against Benny WR. I don't know how good Benny is. He seems pretty decent. Like, it's hard for me to judge, and I don't want to, you know, talk shit about him, but he seems like a good player, I'll say that much. I mean, I can't really talk crap about him. You'll see why a little bit later on. But yeah, it's like everything that he was doing, it felt pretty good. But it's always hard to know, right? As I said, you know, I don't have a huge amount of experience with Age of Mythology, so I'm very much still learning quite a bit. Yeah, it's always tough to know because I've watched Magic stream a little bit. He's a very, very good player, and I see the stuff that he does, and I think to myself, geez, I don't know how I'd go against that guy. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about our game and what we've got here, what the game plan is. So one thing to note is that Benny has started off and he hasn't used his Sentinel ability. So naturally in my head, I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's probably going to be looking for a second TC, which makes sense here because he's up against Gaia. And I think with Gaia, there's going to be a big attraction to going towards a second TC. But so far, the way I'm thinking about playing Gaia is I just want to kind of stick to what I know. I'm playing one base. That way I'm safe against anybody who rushes me. If anybody goes for a second TC, I can put pressure on them. And then I can always look to add in my own second town center a little bit later. So that's the way that I'm thinking. I guess from Benny's perspective, he's probably thinking, well, you know, this guy here is playing Gaia and he's probably going to play a little bit more economically. And we might try and match him here. And we can already tell that information about him just simply because he hasn't put his Sentinels down. You should be looking to put your Sentinels down early if you're playing as Hades and you're planning on staying on one base. Because where else are you going to use them, right? It doesn't really make sense, and you want to try and maximize their placement efficiency. So the sooner that you get them out, the better. That way you don't have a risk of blocking them a little bit later. Age up's coming through now. A little bit late here, about 6 seconds late on the age up, but that's okay. You know, who's counting? So we're going to be going into our standard transition, which is a 4-3-3 transition. 4 vils on food, 3 vils on wood, 3 vils on gold. That should be our standard transition. At least it should be. Let's have a look and see what we do here. So I've got 4 vils on wood. That is definitely not. That is not cricket, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hold your horses. What's going on right here? Anyway, we'll worry about that later. Maybe I'll fix it up. Maybe I don't. Maybe this game was played before I changed my mind about how I wanted to allocate my vils. There you go. There's one for you. No. We fixed it. We fixed it. Don't worry. Okay, so against each civilization, I think that there's different units you want to be making. And to be honest, the Atlanteans are quite blessed by having the counter barracks because it really means that you can counter all 3 units quite actively. You do have negative matchups, like against the Slinger from the Egyptians. It's not particularly favorable, but generally, it's pretty good. So we're going to go with the counter barracks, and we're going to throw down a military barracks here. So we're going to start off with Murmillo, and we're also going to be going into Chiroballista. And the general idea here is that Murmillo should be able to do well against any sort of Hippias threat or any sort of threat from any infantry. And then we've also got that, the main thing that we're at risk at, and we can see right here exactly what is happening. The main thing we're at risk at are those archers. But we've got a way to deal with those sneaky archers a little bit later. So we're going to throw down our Carnivora on his town center as we see it expanding. And one thing to note here, this is a bit of a weird expansion, right? Like, you've got your expansions towards the back of your base. He's not taking it. And the Carnivora is going to try and take down that town center. You can see just how close we actually got to taking it down. But he's managing to keep it up pretty effectively here. We did get a Catapultes out up towards this top side. But the town center comes online. And with that comes dashes our hopes of actually taking that down. And keep in mind that he is playing as Hades. So there's a good chance now that what you're going to hear very soon is a hum. There you go. You don't hear the hum because you're not playing, because we're not playing as Hades. But we heard the god power. So he's gone ahead. He's used his god power. And now it's up to us to issue a response. How are we going to respond to this? Now there's really 3 ways that we can respond to this. We can make units and try and kill the town center. Bad idea. We can make our own town center and try and match the town center. Good idea. We can go heroic and try and kill him in heroic. Probably a bad idea. We don't really have a lot of power from early heroic. Our power more scales in heroic age more than anything. So I think with Gaia, it's going to be quite important to get that big, strong eco build going. But unfortunately, I don't listen to my advice and I say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make units. Now, why is making units a bad idea here? Making units is a bad idea here because we know that he's already got a defensive advantage. Not only does he get the town center up, which is already difficult to kill, but then on top of that, he's playing as Hades. He's utilized those early sentinels on that town center. So there's really no reason or rhyme why we would ever want to be fighting into that, at least this early on. We're going to need behemoths. We're going to need, I was going to say fanatics. We don't want to wait for fanatics, but maybe destroyers, maybe Contarius, something in there. But it's going to be very hard to fight that with only our classical age units. So we're going to continue building up our forces at this stage. There is always the prospect of a second town center that we can throw out. But for the moment, we just want to keep it nice and defensive. We might look to try and find a way in, to try and wiggle a way in. But you can see he's got already a group of roaming units out here. A couple of heroes, a Minotaur, and a Scout. Unfortunately, going to lose the Scout here. We don't have a whole lot of heroized infantry at the front there. So the Minotaur is also going to be difficult to take out. So we're going to actually push him back quite a bit here. We're going to continue rallying out onto gold and food at the moment, which is going to be our main focus. And you can see that there's a beautiful big hunt there. Minotaur is going to be able to beat us away. He's also got a couple of Hippias in here now as well. Now we do have Catapultes mixed in with our Murmillos, so they do quite effectively against the Hippias. And you can see the Hippias coming back here. He's going to pop the Restoration, looking to try and keep himself alive. He's also got villagers in the fight as well. We're going to try and drop our Carnivora anywhere, absolutely anywhere. The Ville's now going to get pulled onto the back line, able to take out the first of the Chiroballista. Second one, which has got that level up on it, or got that hero-wise in there, is still going. Now, I don't know how many Villes we managed to kill in that engagement, but he's done pretty well to take out the Chiroballistas. Only a handful of infantry units left, and this has left a sour taste in my mouth. You might be wondering, why has it left a sour taste in my mouth? Well, I'm on 1 base, he's on 2, and he's just pretty much extinguished the flame that was in my early aggressive heart. And so I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to double down. You know, we're just going to try and make it even worse for him, which is a terrible idea in reality, right? Like, this is not a smart move at all. It's not a percentage play. You know, this isn't the layup that it should be. This is much more like the Hail Mary. And, you know, I'm not even talking like a 3-pointer, right? Like, this is very much your Hail Mary. Because it's a simple game here for Benny, the way that he plays this out. All he needs to do from here, he needs to just chill, mass up units, so a combination of like hoplites together with toxers, maybe a couple of hippias as well to mix in. I'm pretty sure he can get access to the Pegasus through his temple. So get the Pegasus, bring that around the back of my base, just scout whether I'm on 2 TCs. If I'm on a second TC, he should drop a 3rd TC, but all he wants to do is just keep making units. And then if I go to Heroic Age, he follows me up to Heroic Age. It's as simple as that. It's really, really that simple. And just as long as he's got that agency, he'll be absolutely fine, I think. But he opts for something a little bit different. He says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go for a bit of a raid. We're going to go for a cheeky, sneaky little bit of a raid. We catch a couple units here in the middle of the map, and we spot the raid down towards that south side, so I somewhat get a bit scrambled. We see it's only a couple of toxers, so we shouldn't be too worried about it. We'll just send a few units down there. We should be able to sort it. And we begin to chase him up towards that north side. I'm going to need a little bit of a drink of water here. Give me a second, fellas. All right, I got my water bottle here. Just gonna, oh, and now we see we actually see that it's more than just a couple of Toxes. He's actually brought quite an army down here. And I think this is a bit of a mistake, right? Because there's some general rules in RTS that you probably want to follow. So number one is like, when you have a lead, you want to try and get a bigger lead. And in this case, like his lead is that he's got a second TC, right? So a bigger lead would just be maintaining that second TC for a longer time. And that's going to give him that big lead. The problem is when you start doing things like this, where you bring your army to the other side of the map and it's a bit out of position and you're trying to find raids and you don't really have mobile units, what's going to happen is that you may get caught off guard. You may lose that army. You may lose that tempo advantage that you've got. And now all of a sudden you find yourself in a bit of a dilly of a pickle because, you know, those extra resources that you've got from having those vills have now gone because you've lost those units. So we'll have to pay attention to exactly what the plan is here for him as more units continue being rallied in. Keep in mind, he's on 2 TCs here and he is pumping units like crazy. Obviously, we've had a little bit of a counterattack on the north side. We did pick up a couple of villages. My macro's gone absolutely out the window. Have a look at this. I'm sitting on 1,600 resources in the bank, and that's largely just because I'm fought with my attention right now. I don't know where to put my attention. I don't know what to think or what to do. I'm just scrambling as hard and as fast as I can. But finally, our infantry makes it back towards the rest of his army and is a bit of an awkward spot now because ideally he should be in a position where he can fall back to his sentinels. That's what he needs. He needs to be able to fall back to those sentinels, to those defensive structures, to that town center. And that's where he really wants to be because he can be in here and he can be killing villagers. But you got to remember, at the end of the day, he's already building that villager advantage. All he really needs to do is maintain that villager advantage and he's going to be absolutely fine. But we now start to see more Minotaurs coming in as well. Got a couple Toxes over on that left side. Meanwhile, back in the base, we are still pumping non-stop, still on one base. So the longer the game goes on, the worse it gets for us. We're at 50 villager population at the moment. I would suspect he's probably somewhere in the region of about 70, maybe 75, somewhere about that. It's quite high. And you can see now quite a bit of a scramble happening throughout the middle of the map. I'm always just trying to drop down that carnivore, but I've never got enough favor for it. You know, I think you get about 1 or 2, and that's pretty much it. The rest of it, you know, I think initially when I was playing the Atlanteans, I was like, man, I've got so much favor. And then I started using the favor, and then I was like, you know, I've never got any favor. So it's one of those things where once you start using it, it really, you know, it doesn't hang around for very long. And because you want to be heroizing quite a few units as well. When you heroize the units, it improves their stats by a huge amount. So it's like an extra 10%, maybe even 20% speed. Maybe not 20%, like 10% speed, 15% HP, 10% attack. It's like 10% armor on both of them. It's like it's basically like an all-round stat stick upgrade. It's really, really nice. So if you can get it, it's great. It's expensive though. That's the other thing, right? Like it's basically as expensive to upgrade your units to heroic as it is to actually just get a second one of those units. So often it's probably just the better choice is just to simply, you know, spend your maybe spend your favor on upgrades and spend it on carnivoras instead of going into the hero. But obviously we need heroic units to deal with these guys right here, the Minotaurs. They're going to get their front busted right now. We got the double Murmillo, double Terma combo at the back there. And keep in mind, we're still on 1 TC at the moment. Macro has gone out the window. Fortunately, we also realize that there's a whole bunch of infantry just chilling out here. Didn't get the order to depart. So one of the things that we do whenever we realize that we've got too much of a resource, what we want to do is then we want to take the vills off that resource, but then rally the town center to that resource. So what's going to happen is we're going to spend that resource in the meantime, and our income's going to be low for that, but it will slowly build back up. So that's the general idea behind that. So it looks bad right now, and we could just drop a whole bunch of farms, but we've still to balance it out, but we don't need to do that just because we've got plenty of food still in the back of the base. So we want to kind of use that resource, whether that be Kyrillistas, whether that be into Terma, or just more infrastructure in general, you know, like houses, town center, perhaps. We could probably do one of that, but yeah, we're going to start looking to push in here. Calidria is going to lead the way. Plenty of heroic units. And I take a look at it and I say, you know what? That is very fortified. I'm not even going to bother. Like, what's the point? It's probably just going to be like 30 Toxes behind it. I'm just going to leave it. We'll call it a day. We'll come back a little bit later. So, naturally, we just look to push straight down the middle. Now, keep in mind, he's been on 2 TCs for a long time. It is well and truly paid off for him. But we managed to slowly eat away at his army. He's been throwing away his army slowly and slowly and slowly. But now it's gotten to the point where we're taking a fight and we're looking at this saying, hold on a minute, this is actually looking like a really, really good fight for us. A little bit of miss micro right here with the Kyribalist, so they should be focusing down the front line. We should have some Catapultes back here to deal with these annoying cavalry units, but it's not even going to matter. We are in a really, really good spot after that fight. And so the main reason why that happens is because he was just throwing away all of those units. You know, we were talking about it throughout the game. It was not looking pretty there. It was looking like we were really, really underwater, but we managed to keep our head above water, managed to keep ourselves alive. We scrambled, and then finally, we were able to take a really good fight because we just had wonderful numbers. So I would say in this situation, you know, we did the right thing. We just kind of chilled, bided our time, bode our time. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But now we've also found ourselves in a bit of an awkward spot because now we're in deep. And I'm starting to feel it. He's got the Bull Minotaur upgrade, so I'm a little bit worried about that. We've got plenty of heroes mixed in, but you've always got to be careful of those Minotaurs. They've got the ability to discombobulate that army. So I'm just thinking to myself, you know what? We're like one age up away from just getting absolutely shredded right now. So I need to be really careful, right? Like, is it going to be Aphrodite? Am I going to get cursed? Is it going to be a Nemean lion that's in my face? You know, it's one of the two that's going to happen. If I remember correctly, it's probably both of those things that can happen. But plenty of resources in the bank now building up. You can see that we're up to 60 economic population. So I would say at this stage of the game, Benny's probably maxed. He's probably sitting at close to 99 Vils now. But once again, he's going to go for this annoying little run by. And the mistake that he's making is he's not using cavalry. I think that's like the biggest mistake. We managed to see that with our mana just up towards the top side. So we know to evacuate the Vils. We know to bring our army down. We've also now got the Traitor ability that allows us to convert one of his units. So we can take his Bull Minotaur if we so choose to. And, well, you guys know how I'm feeling. I think I actually want to save that for the Nemean Lion because you can use it and you can reuse it quite affordably. The problem is it's like a 4-minute cooldown. So it's really tough to decide, you know, is it worth using right here, right now? Or do you want to save it for something like the Nemean Lion, which is just going to be, you know, game-changing because their strategy is all relying on that. So we're now able to clean this up once again because it's not cavalry. And it's just really it just comes down to the fact that or our enemy hasn't been raiding us with cavalry and has instead been raiding us with units. And we've just been able to capitalize on the fact that he did not have a mobile army and was able to run away from us. If he had a mobile army, it would have been a little bit different. But you've also got to remember, and this is a big factor, the Catapultes is an insane unit when it comes to movement speed. So the Catapultes is the unique anti-cavalry unit available to the Atlanteans. So especially for Gaia, the Catapultes is crazy. Let me explain why. Number one, you have a bonus of 10% movement speed through Oceanus, your classical age upgrade, or your classical age up. So it's 10% attack and 10% speed. On top of that, you can heroize your Catapultes for another 10% speed. And then on top of that, you can also have Gaia Lush. There's the Nemean Lion. Thank you very much. Yoink. And big roar we get off, stunning absolutely everything. Kairos moving up. It's a beautiful little push here. But you also get another 15% from your Lush as well. So in total, you're rocking 35% or plus 35% movement speed. You're faster than enemy cavalry. That's what I'm trying to say right now when you're on your Lush. So our push is now starting to really come to shove. That Nemean Lion swap was what we were waiting for. We knew that the moment that Nemean Lion came out, we're just going to turn it immediately. It's going to be close to his army, and it's going to roar straight away like Katy Perry and turn the tides of battle. I don't think it would have made a difference. I think even if he really, you know, committed with the Nemean Lion and we didn't have Trader, I think we still would have been in an okay spot. You can see we've got so many Kyriballistas. Curse is going to come out, though. Only hits 2 of the Kyriballista on the back, so we're not too fussed about it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to let our Behemoth do all the heavy lifting for us. You can see it over towards the left-hand side of your screen. It is just doing its thing over there. It's working down the buildings, and that's what you want to do when these fights are happening. Avoid targeting the buildings, except with your Behemoth. The Behemoth is fine to target those buildings. Ideally, as long as it's still tanking, if you need it to tank, then it's fine. Behemoth is in now. I don't even know, does the Behemoth have a special ability? Like, obviously the Nemean Lion, it's like a beast. It attacks like crazy, but then it's also got an amazing special ability. Like, I don't even know if the Behemoth has got one. But we've now built up a pretty substantial score lead. From this one base play, we have managed to take out a guy that was on 2 bases. A guy that objectively should have won this game, But if it wasn't for throwing away his units just constantly trying to pick up a small lead. If that had been cavalry, it would have been a different story. If he just waited in his base, it would have been a different story. But for us, fortunately, we were able to pick up a lot of those units as he was coming through. All right, so this looks like over on his top side over here, this is his last gold. We could tell because it's got so many vills on it, right? There's nowhere else he can really be gathering from that gold from. You know, when you've got 30 vills, you're like, go. So as long as we put some pressure on that, it's going to be very hard for him to continue making units. We're just rallying in more and more units. We've got 3k gold in the bank right now. We're feeling good about ourselves. We've got some cool technologies that are free and we haven't even researched them yet. But they're coming through now. But yeah, we're feeling very good about this position, obviously. Yeah, so overall, I think Gaia's probably... I wouldn't say it's the hardest civilization. Definitely not. I feel like the hardest civilization's probably going to be... It's probably not the hardest civilization. It's definitely one of the you know what? It's probably quite an easy civilization when I think about it, just because you don't have the drop-offs. But there we go. GG gets called straight away, and we're going to type in our response. Good game over here. Yeah, I think Gaia is actually probably pretty mid-range civ. The only thing is Gaia is a very reactive civilization. It is a civ that I don't think you can take the initiative with. It's one that you kind of have to watch what your enemy's doing, and then you respond. So it's kind of like the Chinese in Age of Empires 4. That's the way it reminds me. So just having a look around the map, you can see did end up taking a third TC towards that top side. We can take a look now at some of the timelines. Hopefully I've shown them off in this video. Let's have a look and see. We've got military units. So we jump out to a pretty decent start, but he catches up to us. Then we have a good fight. And then what have we got here? This is all resources collected. I'm just going to pause it. So our resources collected is above his. I think because he kind of stalls out right here. Is this because he's moving villages to build the second TC? I think that's it. Like, if we go back and have a look, there was a lot of vills building that second TC, wasn't there? Like, just look at this. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 vills building this second TC. And if we speed it up, I think there's more vills that come in from the other side. Yeah. So he's got another 3 that come over here. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's a lot of vills, dude. Actually, was that 3 just from over here? Anyway, it's 10 vills. So, like, 10 vills is obviously a huge amount to be moving that far. So, I think that there's a good thing about moving your vills out to take that town center, but there's also a bad thing. And that bad thing is just all that idle time that he had. So, all that time that he was walking, we were gathering. And we kind of held that lead for a while. His 2TC eventually caught up, but it took some time to catch up. And I guess that's largely because of the eco advantage that you've got on one base, Gaia. Obviously, we have the advantage of having our heroic age upgrades in the classical age. So here we've got our villager count or our civilian count. So you can see that we're actually we're not doing the best. He is well and truly out booming us. Pretty much double the entirety of the game, which is to be expected when you're playing Gaia. But then, of course, he's on 2TC. So here, as an example, you can see right as we hit the heroic age, we're at 30 economic population. He's at 79. So that's the equivalent. Like you'd probably say like maybe 30 or 30 would be equivalent to 60. Normally, it's probably not. It's probably a little bit less than that. So he would have a 20 lead on us there, and then he obviously maxes out, and we're on 34. So that's a feels good moment right there. Anyway, we managed to turn it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this game. Other than that, we'll leave it there, and of course we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.